What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Right Off the Bus here with my buddy Pat Mahoney. Brand new sports podcast coming to you weekly, every single week. We're going to have different interviews, new perspectives. We're super excited to get started and bring you along on this journey with us.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Some interviews you never knew you needed to hear. Hopefully you enjoy our insight on the sports, our opinions on what we got. Try to stay mostly neutral, just call it as we see it, but hopefully you enjoy what we got.
We'll stay as neutral as we can, and one thing I want to talk about real quick is the name Right Off the Bus, what that's all about. I thought this was a better known thing before we started talking about it, Pat, but we want to be, with the mentality of right off the bus. You hop right off the bus, you're ready to play, you're ready to get on the field, you're ready to get on the court, you're ready to get going. You don't need a warm up. That's what we're all about. We just want to be here having a good time, having a fun conversation, and revolving it all around sports.
Yeah, and I never knew what it meant, but when you brought that idea to me, I thought of it as something, maybe with the podcast, it can be a term that everyone knows one day. So if anything, maybe it's good that I didn't know it. And so it's going to be a good explanation of what we're doing. I think it's a good metaphor for what our show is going to be. So I agree. I'm excited about it.
All right, so getting into some football, I mean, the biggest game of the week had to be the Chiefs Saints this week. And the Saints did everything they could, but they just could not overcome Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill in that offense. So 32-29, Pat, what were your impressions on that game?
Well, the Chiefs-Saints game, we knew it was going to be an exciting game coming in. Drew Brees was coming back off injury. I was kind of surprised that they had him back. I guess it makes sense that they had him coming back against the Chiefs because I think you need your full strength against that team to bring it. But it's tough to really go up against Pat Mahomes. I mean, the kid is almost unbeatable at this point. I know they've lost. I forget how many losses. He's got something crazy like single-digit career losses. Nine career
Nine
losses. Yeah, I
losses.
knew it was single digits still. Yep. And with the Saints, I mean, the Saints, they had a good run at it, but the Chiefs, they overcame not having Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I guess isn't saying much because they still have Le'Veon Bell.
Not a bad
But
backup.
even with the Saints defense, the Saints have a great defense, but it's hard to overcome the firepower of Travis Kelce, Le'Veon Bell, Pat Mahomes. I mean, the worst receiver almost on the Chiefs is Sammy Watkins. So that pretty much just says how good their team is, even with Drew Brees coming back. So it was no surprise to me that the Chiefs won. I was glad it was a close one. I thought the Chiefs might even win by more, but the Saints are a great team. And who knows, maybe we'll see that matchup in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And what a ridiculous stat for Pat Mahomes. 9 career losses, I think in 4 seasons or 3 full seasons and a
Yeah.
little bit of a little bit of his rookie year. 9 career losses, over 31 points per game scored in those losses. So in order to beat the Chiefs, you have to score 34, 35, 40 points. That is the only way you can stay in a game with them, which is absolutely ridiculous. Mahomes has the potential to be the best ever. And it's funny to say because you think of a guy like Brady with his 6 rings. Mahomes only has
Yeah.
one, right? But oh my goodness, what Mahomes is doing, it's the Chiefs versus the rest of the league right now. That's how it feels. It feels like it's the Chiefs in the field, and who would you rather pick? I'm probably going with the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl over the field, over the other 31 teams for the next 5-10 years because Mahomes is that good. It's scary. And also, Travis Kelce is entering the GOAT conversation when it comes to tight ends. He's not the blocker that Gronk is, and Gronk, in my opinion, is the GOAT right now, but Travis Kelce is just absolutely unbelievable. First tight end with 5 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. It's unbelievable what he's doing in that offense. And Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, they're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, Andy Reid knows how to use him, and I don't see any signs of Kelce slowing down. If he's got Mahomes thrown to him for the next 5 years and Kelce can stay healthy like he has, he will, I think, be the GOAT at the end of the day. And,
Yeah.
I mean, Gronk might have something to say about that. Gronk was absolutely amazing, but Kelce's on his way. I think he's got a chance. And going back to that stat with the 31 points, it's funny you mentioned that because the Saints scored 29 points and it wasn't enough. So I guess that just goes to show, it proves the point.
It is a legit over-under right there. It has to be 31 or more, I guess. But moving on to the next game, maybe the shock game of the week. I say maybe. It absolutely was. The Jets picking up their first win, 23-20 over the Los Angeles Rams. Nobody in the league saw this happening. Nobody thought there was a chance. You think the Jets could sneak a game in? Not against the Rams, not against that defense, not against Sean McVay. But somehow the Jets come out and win that game. What were your thoughts and the ramifications on that first pick?
The funniest part about the whole thing is that the Jets fans have got to be in pain that they won a game. It's kind of the reverse at this point because you almost are trying to lose. And that's why I thought there's no way the Jets are going to beat the Rams. The Rams are too good of a team. So I for sure thought the Jets were going to lose. And even at this point, try to lose so they could lock up the first pick. And actually, now that they've lost, if the Jaguars and the Jets both go 1-15, the Jets have missed out on the number one pick. So I'm interested to see how that would shake out. But in terms of that game, I was shocked by it. I think the Jets were up 13-0 to start. And then I was kind of nervous there in the second half. The Rams were coming back. I thought the Jets might blow it, but the Jets hung in there. They had a late, I remember it was a third down conversion to Frank Gore. They ended up, and Frank Gore's still getting it done. But,
Timeless.
Yeah, timeless player. Sam Darnold got the pass to Frank Gore. They secured the win. So I was surprised by that. And actually, the one person who I know wasn't surprised, my buddy Dan actually put money on the Jets. He's like, something about the Rams.
Wow.
They can't seem to win when it matters, which I kind of agree with thus far. They have had that in the past 3 to 4 years under Sean McVay. I mean, they've been an excellent team, but they have kind of lost when it matters because they need this win for playoff seeding and playoff. They needed this win for playoff seeding. So, yeah, I'm surprised that the Jets beat the Rams, and hopefully the Rams can get over that and move on to next week, and they can finish their season on a win streak. And because I do want to see the Rams succeed. I think they've got the team to do it. I like their players, Jared Goff, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I like Sean McVay a lot. So I do hope to see them succeed. And for the Jets, I wish them the best, and I hope they get the best draft pick they can.
One of my buddies, Connor House, shout out Connor and his podcast, All the Balls. He's a huge Jets fan, and I texted him and I said, I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your 15-minute rant on your podcast about the Jets messing this up, because Rex Ryan on Get Up the other day on ESPN said, you may have just messed up the next 15 years. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is potentially that good. They say he's the highest rated guy since Andrew Luck, and before that, John Elway out of college. And if you don't get him, it changes everything that was going to happen in the league. Nobody thought anyone was going to have this pick other than the New York Jets. It totally changes the draft, and I'm really interested to see the consequences and the ramifications of this game, because this game was massive for the future of a couple different teams in the NFL. And all I'm saying is no state income tax in Florida, right? So Trevor Lawrence is going to be happy if he ends up in Jacksonville. That's for sure.
Yeah, and even ended up in the northern part of Florida rather than the southern part. I know the southern part's where all the beaches are at, but I think being in Florida regardless would be nice for Trevor Lawrence. I think he just kind of gives me that vibe too. You know, he's got the hair going on. He's got the surfer hair, even though surfing's more of a California thing, I guess. But he gives me the vibe of Florida, so I think he'd fit in better there than up in New Jersey with the Jets. But we'll see with the Jaguars. And speaking of the Jaguars, my Ravens, flag behind me, got the big win over the Jaguars, dominating win. So that did not bode well for the Jets. But with the Ravens keeping their playoff hopes alive, we really needed that win. I know it was a game we're supposed to win, but I hadn't been confident in games we were supposed to win up to that point. So I'm glad that the Ravens got the win, and we'll see. It's a tough AFC North. It's the toughest it's ever been with the Browns. So we'll see. But that was a big win for the Ravens as well.
Yeah, and keeping along with the AFC North, how about those Bengals beating the Steelers this week? The Steelers have lost 3 weeks in a row, starting off 11-0. Now they're sitting at 11-3 with a couple bad losses in a row. And I forget who sent it out, but a tweet I saw about it, I thought wrapped it up perfectly and said that the 11-0 Steelers are just as good as the 8-0 Patriots from last year. The Pats were 8-0, ended up being 12-4 and losing in the first round of the playoffs. Kind of get out of the wild card. And I don't know if I think the Steelers are better than that, but oh my goodness, this 3-game slide that they're on is absolutely terrible. You lose to the Bengals without Joe Burrow, without Joe Mixon, all of their key players. It's a horrible loss for the Steelers. And And it does make you think, okay, this AFC North is going to be a fantastic division for years to come. Because if the Bengals without their two main stars are doing it, and the Browns are having their best season since 2007 or something like that, and the Ravens and Steelers are both good, it's a really fun division with some weird games and some serious upsets going on.
Yeah, the Bengals make me nervous even at the bottom of the standings, and that's, without Joe Burrow. If they continue to progress, and they're going to get another good draft pick, if they can keep adding pieces, the AFC North's going to be the best division in the entire NFL. So I am excited for that. I'm not excited for the competition the Ravens are going to have,
Yeah.
but I'm confident that that's going to be one of the best divisions going forward. And with the Steelers, I can't believe they're on a 3-game slide. I mean, I knew they'd lose at some point. They had a weaker schedule up to this point. They hadn't been playing teams that were playing great. So they played a couple good teams, but then the Bengals, even on their skid without Joe Burrow. So I was surprised to see the Steelers lose, and I really feel bad for my guy Juju. I do love Juju, but he is getting some serious hate right now, and he is dancing on the team logos, which is pretty disrespectful. But or as Terrell Owens might tell you, you don't get loved for that one. So we'll see if he continues to do it. But I do feel bad for my guy Juju and the Steelers as well. But I think the Steelers will turn it around.
Yeah, and it's a weird dynamic for Juju too, because he's so likable. He's such a fun, just great personality, has a lot of fun, is laughing all the time, is dancing, is doing his thing on TikTok, is showing up to some kid in Pittsburgh's prom to go with him when his date cancels on him. He's a great guy, great personality, but Juju, enough with the antics before the games. I mean, you lost the last three. Maybe it's time to switch it up and stop dancing on logos and stop doing TikTok and Fortnite dances before the games, because it has not been working the past few games. It has not been working.
No, yeah, and I agree 100%. I love Juju, but maybe leave it off the football field. And, that hit that the Bengals laid on him might help put that point across.
Absolutely. And quickly on my Patriots, another bad loss to the Miami Dolphins. And, we're talking about the AFC North getting better. The AFC East, I think, is a serious threat now. The Bills maybe are the second best team in football. And Josh Allen has emerged as a top 5 quarterback in this league. And the Dolphins are 9-5, which no one saw coming this year. Brian Flores is building something special on that defense and that team overall. I think that he should be up for Coach of the Year. But it just continues to show that the Pats have zero answers at quarterback, and we're just in for another couple bad games. And hopefully we see something different next season, but I am not sure what direction this Patriots team is going in. I have no idea as a lifelong fan.
Yeah, I do feel for you at the moment, even though you've had the years
You
of
shouldn't.
success.
You shouldn't.
You have had the years of success. I do feel bad for Cam Newton, because Cam Newton's a really likable guy, and I do like him a lot. And he took the blame for that. He took the blame hard in that Instagram post, and he did say, we'll be better next year. I'm not so sure if he'll be the starting quarterback there next year. He might be a backup. I don't know if he'll have any interest in being a backup. Maybe he'll have to fight for a spot. But I am interested to see where the Patriots are next year. I do think it's going to be another year or two before they make the playoffs again, but I think they'll find their direction again.
It's just hard to imagine. As someone born in 1998, the Patriots have been phenomenal my entire life. From the moment that I could consciously recognize and watch a TV screen, the Patriots have been winning 12 games a year. So
Yeah,
it's weird.
nothing but success.
It is weird. It is weird to watch. It really is. And sticking in the AFC East a little bit more, some trade rumors going on with Ezekiel Elliott, and I know one of them is possibly the New York Jets. You want to talk about those rumors at all?
Yeah, so Jerry Jones does call Zeke their best player, but in terms of does it make sense for them to trade him? I mean, you look at a guy, Tony Pollard, the backup there. He went off yesterday.
Yep.
He went off in their game. He had a great day, and it kind of shows. I've thought about this. I've thought this about running backs for some time now, that paying them these big paychecks just doesn't work out. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. We look at the Rams with Todd Gurley, now the Jets with Le'Veon Bell, and Zeke getting his payday. I mean, Zeke's been a monster, don't get me wrong, but without Dak, you saw that fall apart pretty quickly, and it kind of shows if they do have Dak, do they really need Zeke? I think if you get a receiving back, the way the NFL is evolving, if you get a receiving back and maybe just a power back such as a Mark Ingram who can get those tough yards. That's all you need. And if you have a receiving back, you're good to go. And I think Dak would use that effectively. So I think the smart move is to probably move on from Zeke, as much as the Cowboys and Jerry Jones may not even want to do that. It might be smart to move on, get a good draft pick. I've heard if he goes to the Jets, maybe get a second rounder back. That would be great. Maybe something else. The Jets could certainly use him. Frank Gore is not going to be sticking around too much longer. So if they hung on to Sam Darnold, get a different head coach, and then added Zeke, it might actually work out better than Le'Veon Bell did. So I think it would be a good move or if they even got Trevor Lawrence at the Jets, if that worked out. So imagine Trevor Lawrence and Zeke on the Jets. It's a lot better looking team up at what do they play? MetLife, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And and it is interesting with running backs now because you see it all across the league. It's a committee position. It's three or four guys that play the position now. You don't need that one superstar. That is not what is going to get you a Super Bowl win, and you see it time and time again. I mean, what the Patriots have done the last decade is have three running backs split snaps. Think of it right now. I know Sonny Michel's been out, but it's Sonny Michel, Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, who's now hurt, James White. That is four running backs of the same ability.
Yep.
And they all do different things, but they're all at a similar level in their skill and their talent. And that's what running back is now. That's what the position is. You have to be able to do a couple different things and have a couple different guys running that position. And I don't think it makes sense to pay running backs this big money anymore, even though I'm all for people getting the bag. I want everyone to get paid. I'm all for it. Zeke, I'm glad you got your money, but it's not a great football move anymore. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just smart to put the money elsewhere and invest in your D line, your O line, your safeties, your cornerbacks. So I think those are the most important positions you got to fill with great quality players. And I think the running back can kind of, like you said, it fills itself. You get a committee back, and the team never sees what's coming. The Ravens are a good example of that. We've been revolving running backs for a while now, ever since the Ray Rice days. But we got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, all those guys getting touches. It just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And last thing on football, real quick, I can't talk about it at all because I didn't even sniff the fantasy playoffs. But Pat, if you want to talk a little bit about fantasy and just shout out to all the fantasy winners out there because I wasn't even close to you guys.
Yeah, pretty much just shout out to all the fantasy winners. This was a crazy season. I know I'm a commissioner in a couple leagues, including the one with Chandler. So we didn't really know how it was going to work out with all the COVID outings and everything like that. But shout out to anyone who made it through, like myself. I'm in the championship against our buddy John and me and Chandler's league. I unfortunately lost in the semifinals in my other league, but hey, I made it to the playoffs, and good on you. Good on you all who did make it and had a great season. And we'll look forward to 2021. I think it'll run a little bit smoother. Hopefully, Roger Goodell will have a little bit better handling of the season if COVID's still, a prevalent thing.
Don't even get me started on Roger Goodell. That's the time to move on right there
Yeah,
because
that's
I
all.
can I cannot get started on Roger Goodell. So moving on to basketball here, we are entering the 75th season for the NBA, which is fantastic. It just shows the growth and the longevity that this league has been able to sustain. Really excited about this season. You don't know how it's going to go with COVID and everything like that. But just starting off a little bit talking about my Boston Celtics, your Boston Celtics, we're hometown fans here in Massachusetts, but I'm really excited about the Celtics and what they're doing this season. Of course, Jason Tatum is the headline. He's the star. He is entering top 10 player in the league status with the way he's been playing. And if Jason Tatum can take that next step again, like he did last season, and Jaylen Brown can take that next step like he's continued to do, and Marcus Smart, all of these guys have been getting better for their entire careers, and that's all we need to see happen. People are saying that the Celtics didn't do enough this offseason. Well, what about the transformation and maturity of our young guys? This roster is so young, and giving those guys an opportunity to get better and continue to play is what I was really excited about. And what else did I want this season? I wanted vets, and we went out and got two, Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson. Teague's going to be starting for the foreseeable future right now with however long Kemba's out. He's going to be out a month, maybe a month and a half. Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge are saying it may even be a little longer. I'm happy that we have a vet that has been starting in this league for a long time, was unbelievably an all-star one time with the Hawks when they won like 65 games or whatever. And the other vet that we got, Tristan Thompson, an NBA champion, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think he's going to be a really solid backup, a bruiser to go in and bang down low. And the other one player that I'm so looking forward to this season is Aaron Nesmith, the 14th pick out of Vanderbilt. He was the best shooter in the draft. He's an absolute sniper. And I think that is the other thing that the Celtics needed other than veteran presence is shooting. Him and Peyton Pritchard are shooters. And Nesmith, all you need to do is go in and shoot 5, 6, 7 threes a game. The Celtics have never had a strict shooter. They haven't had it in years. I'm thinking a guy like Eddie House. That's the last time I can think about somebody playing a significant role on the Celtics that is just a shooter. We don't have a Duncan Robinson, a JJ Redick, even a Malik Beasley, a guy that is just going to sit in the corner and shoot. Bryn Forbes, who was a guy I would have loved the Celtics to sign. He went to the Bucks. But I'm really excited about the Celtics season. It's starting up soon. First game's coming up, and I'm just so excited to see what this team can do because it's continuing to grow. It's continuing to get better, and I think they're going to make a phenomenal run in the East this year.
Yeah, and I do think the Celtics do have a great lineup, and I like, as you said, the addition of Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson. I do think a couple of the reasons we might struggle a little more than we think they might, just with Kemba being out, I know with the injury, and I recently heard it might be a little longer than expected. It could be out through January, possibly early mid-February. So that's a good chunk of season we're going to miss out on Kemba's play. Hopefully Jeff Teague could step in, facilitate the ball. I know Jeff Teague's not going to bring the same scoring ability that Kemba does, but really with the players we have, if Teague can facilitate, that's going to be huge for us. And the Eastern Conference might be tougher than it has been in years. With the addition of Russell Westbrook to the Wizards, him and Bradley Beal, I think they're going to gel well. I know they were great with John Wall, but I think Westbrook's going to add a totally different dynamic to that team. So we got the Wizards. Now we got the Nets to worry about, Kyrie and Durant. We'll see how that goes, but I do think that's going to be tough. We got the Bucks as well. The Bulls are looking better. I don't think the Bulls will be a contender, but I think they'll finish in the playoffs. They're going to be a great team. They're adding the pieces that they need. Great draft pick in Patrick Williams. And then you got the other team, the Sixers. They're always there. They're always a thorn in our side. So we'll see what happens in the East. I think we're going to finish, 3 or 4 is likely for us. But you know what? It's all about playoffs. It's all about how we look riding into the playoffs. It's about a hot streak going in. So if we can finish up at the 3 or 4 seed, I think we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And just touching on a couple of those trades that you had mentioned real quick, I think Russell Westbrook to the Wizards, it was a surprise for everybody around the league. Russell Westbrook to the Wizards doesn't really feel like a contender, but the young guys that the Wizards have, it's going to be a really exciting roster. I mean, you have a two-headed monster in Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. And I think that they're going to play really well together. I think Beal's going to play off of Russell Westbrook very well. It's a much better combo for their play styles than Russell and Harden. And, you have Davis Bertans on that team and Rui Hachimura and Thomas Bryant and Denny Ajiva, their new draft pick, I think 9th overall. It's going to be a fun team. And I can see them getting a 6 seed or so and upsetting someone in the playoffs because if you put Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal on the floor together, it's what the NBA is all about. It's about duos. It's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's LeBron and Anthony Davis. It's PG and Kawhi. It's all about duos. And those two can go up against anyone in the league and put up a fight. And they're probably going to average 60 points a game together or close to it. So it's going to be a fun duo to watch. Another big trade in the East, Drew Holiday to the Bucks. I absolutely love this. I think that it is a move to say, Giannis, we are planning on winning. We want you to stay. And he did. He signed that max extension. He's getting paid, one of the biggest contracts in NBA history. And I love the Greek Freak. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a great person. I think he's awesome in the community. So I'm really excited he's staying in the East and not going to a bigger market. I like that he's staying in Milwaukee. And the addition of Drew Holiday and a guy like Bryn Forbes, a sharpshooter like I've been mentioning, more important than ever in the NBA. I think that the Drew Holiday trade, it doesn't give the Bucks a legit number 2. Chris Middleton's awesome. He's not a legit number 2, but Giannis is as good as anyone in the league. He's a top 3-4 player. And then you have 2 guys that I would call number 3s, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. And I think that may be enough to get you where you need to be, to a conference finals, to an NBA championship. Lakers are still the favorite in my opinion, but I love a couple of the trades and what it did for a few of the teams in the East.
Yeah, I would agree. And if, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday can increase their shooting ability in the offseason, if they can prove that they can shoot like a 2, then it may even be the piece that they needed. And the Bucks, we could see a Bucks team in the finals. So I do think that was great for them. And then going back to the other trade with Westbrook as well, I think that was a win-win for the Wizards and the Rockets. John Wall going to the Rockets. I think he was a great addition there. The Kentucky boys are back in business, DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall.
Love
So
that.
that's going to be awesome for the Rockets, even with all the Harden drama that we'll get into in a minute. But if they can get something, if they did something with Harden, they got another piece. I think John Wall could gel really well there. And I think that was a win-win for both teams.
Harden drama, Pat. I mean, this guy isn't showing up to the first few training camps and isn't playing around the team and isn't at the practice facility. And their poor new head coach, Steven Silas, is having to answer questions and saying, yeah, I mean, I don't know where James is. That's a question for James and things like that. I mean, this guy, well, he should have been in Houston at practice, was in Atlanta partying. It was in Vegas partying, was in Houston partying, seen out at strip clubs, and he's out with the baby, gifting him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and
Yeah.
watches cash honey buns and Prada bags and all this stuff. And it's like, James, I mean, we know you don't want to be in Houston anymore, but geez, pretend a little bit. It seems more and more likely that this guy's getting traded. And, obviously not before the season starts, but very early in the season, it seems like he could be on the move. Where would you see him going? I know a few of the teams that have been mentioned are the Celtics, the Raptors, the Sixers, the Nets. Where would you see him going if he was traded, you think?
Yeah, so I know Raptors, Celtics, Sixers are the top landing spots. I was thinking at first Philly could be probably the top landing spot that I would guess for him. Now I'm kind of thinking the Raptors. I think that would be awesome for the Raptors if they could get Harden. You think about Van Vliet, think about Siakam, Harden on all the same team right there, Kyle Lowry as well. That Raptors team would be awesome. That would almost be like the Kawhi days, I think. Kawhi did carry them, but I think Harden could find great success in Toronto. I think that would make the most sense for him. And I don't just say that because I don't really want to see him on the Celtics. I know a lot of people think I'd be crazy to say that and that you might be excited to have Harden on the Celtics, but I like the lineup the way it is in Boston. I think you would kind of throw off the balance a bit. I don't like that move. And yeah, with Harden, now he really is working his way out of Houston without saying that he is. But there's reports he's getting into scuffles with other players now on the
Mm-hmm.
same team. There was one of the rookies there. They got in like a screaming match. So I don't really see it ending well. I think it's going to be an unhappy breakup there. I think they're bound to split at some point, whether it's this season or at the end.
Yeah, and it's so tough too because Harden is maybe one of the 5 greatest scorers of basketball ever. And he's maybe a top 5 shooting guard ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy has been doing amazing things in this league for years. He hasn't won anything. He's only gone to 1 conference finals, which I still believe that they would have won if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. But Harden, if you want to be on a contender, I'm excited to see you on a contender, but there's no reason why Houston can't be one. And Houston has been one. And if DeMarcus Cousins is healthy and John Wall's healthy, I think you got to ride it out there. It's a good team. And hopefully Harden gets moved or decides to commit because I want to see him playing at an elite level because it's just good for the league when Harden's averaging 38 and 10. That's just the way it is.
I agree. Yeah, he's one of the best pure scorers. He's extremely fun to watch, and the John Wall move gives a whole different dynamic to that team. So I think it'd be dumb of him to try to move on. I think he should give Houston another chance, at least a year or two, to see how things work out with John Wall and then DeMarcus Cousins as well, because I think they could be a problem in the West. I mean, we know it's going to be tough to get past the Lakers. The Warriors are excellent too, even though they don't have Klay Thompson, but I think the Houston could easily be a number 2 if the Harden stays there and he commits.
So moving on to a little bit of soccer, which we're going to be talking about plenty on this podcast. We got the round of 16 Champions League draw coming out last week. And Pat, a lot of exciting games here. Love the 2-leg draws here. And the first game to talk about, Manchester City getting Mönchengladbach from Germany. Poor Borussia Mönchengladbach, man. Again with Manchester City in the Champions League. I know it's two legs. I expect Manchester City to win both of them, but it's your team, so go ahead and tell me a little bit about what we're about to see there.
I know it does seem like we're playing Mönchengladbach every year, whether it's group stage or knockout stage. They seem to get the unlucky draw every time, and I think we've beat them every time, if not pretty handily. We've handled them pretty well, but I think we're gonna see the same thing this year. I think they just don't have enough names. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong. They're pretty good in Germany, but I just think Man City's too good. And even with the Prem teams, they always seem to struggle in European soccer. I mean, despite Liverpool taking it home, but I think Man City's going to be too much for him. We have too many weapons, too much offensive firepower. I know our defense can be a liability at times, but I think Man City's just going to run away with that one. I don't see it being close.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And moving on to the next game, I mean, the current UEFA champions, Bayern Munich, playing Lazio, and Lazio's a top team, and they have a lot of really great players when you think of guys like Mertens and Insigne playing on the wing. But Bayern Munich has to win this. They're going to win both of these games. This team has just been totally different since Hansi Flick took over last year, and I expect them to be a Final Four team at least in the Champions League, depending on matchups and everything. But Bayern Munich needs to go out and win both these games, and I don't think Lazio stands up.
Yeah, and like you said, top four. Bayern might even be my winner this year. So I don't see that matchup being close, but I think Bayern's going to get it done. They're too good. They're too strong. They have the best striker in the world, if not. I think
Yep.
Lewandowski just got FIFA Best Men's Player of 2020. So there you go. He is the striker of that team. He runs the show. I think they're going to be too much.
He got robbed when they decided to cancel the Ballon d'Or. They
Yeah,
did, the France Football
absolutely.
Association or whatever that calls it, they decided to say, oh no, because of COVID. Absolutely robbed. Lewandowski won everything. Bayern Munich were so dominant. He was the best player on the team. Got robbed. It's the way it is. Then the next matchup, Atletico and Chelsea. As much as I want to say Chelsea's going to win this game or win these two games because they have a more talented roster, they're so young. They don't have the European experience. The team is still learning how to play with each other. I mean, the team's great when Thiago Silva's playing at the back and captaining that side, but I still think that a lot of the young guys there, Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Christian Pulisic isn't staying healthy. Mason Mount's still coming to his own. I think that Atletico, the experience and the defensive discipline that Diego Simeone puts into this team, I think that Atletico is going to end up winning this first round draw against Chelsea.
You're right. It's going to be tough for Chelsea, and I don't see Chelsea moving on much farther past this round in the Champions League. But however, I am gonna choose Chelsea for this round. I think they're going to surprise us, and I know Diego Simeone, Atletico's defense. They're tough. They do have a lot of weapons as well. Joao Felix, especially the young superstar. But Chelsea's got a lot of their own young superstars. They are inexperienced, especially their coach Frank Lampard. But I think they'll get it done in this round. Maybe not the next round. We'll see what the matchups are. But I'm taking Chelsea on this one.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. Moving on to the next matchup, we got my Liverpool Football Club here taking on RB Leipzig, and I like Leipzig a lot playing in Germany, but they've lost too much. They have some new guys coming in to replace some of those big names that they lost, like Timo Werner. But Liverpool is just way too good. They're a top 3, 4 team in the world. I think Liverpool wins both of these games. What I'm most excited to see in these games is if Dayot Upamecano, if I'm saying it correctly, stays with Leipzig after the January transfer window opens. He's 22 years old. He's one of the best center backs in the world. I just want to see him play against Liverpool because Jurgen Klopp loves to buy players that play well against him. It's what he did with Takumi Minamino. It's what he did with Naby Keita. It's what he loves to do, Diego Jota. It's what he loves to do. So I would love to see Upamecano just play so well and have Jurgen end up paying that big transfer fee to go out and get him because we need another center back. We do. Joe Gomez isn't staying healthy. Fabinho's playing center back right now for us. Van Dijk's out. Fabinho might be the second best center back in the Premier League behind Virgil van Dijk, even though he's a D mid. But we need more depth at that position, and I'd love to see another young star. But regardless, Liverpool is winning both of these games. There's no way around it.
Yeah, despite Liverpool's injury struggles, I think there's still going to be too much for Leipzig. I think even their B team being fielded, I think that would still be a problem for Leipzig. Leipzig's good, but Liverpool's too much. They're just the Giants of the Premier League now, and I think they're going to be the Giants of European football as well.
And speaking of Giants, the next matchup, the Giants of Italy, Juventus, they are playing Porto. And Porto's been great. They're one of the best teams in Portugal, but you have no chance going against Juventus. And Andre Pirlo's doing some new things with this team. First year manager. We got an American starting in midfield half the time and playing with way more energy than anyone else on that team, Weston McKennie. But Juventus should go and win both of these games. As much as I like Porto and their style of play, you're just not good enough. You're just not good enough to be Juventus. And it's not a bad thing. They're a top 5-6 team in the world. It's not a bad thing.
Yep. And shout out Eli. I know he loves Weston McKennie.
Takes credit for Weston
yeah,
McKennie in his rise.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I agree. Juventus going to be too much for Porto. Porto, best team in Portugal. I know they got good teams over there, Benfica, Sporting KC, but nothing compared to Juventus. I mean, they've won the Italian league how many times now in a row?
I think 9. I think
Yeah,
8 or 9.
something like that. Yeah. So I think that translates to this round. I know they haven't got it done in European football recently, but like you said, it's exciting what Pirlo's doing. So I think we're going to see good things out of them, especially in the rounds to come.
And continuing on with a giant that just wins the league every year, except 17-18 when Monaco did it. Paris Saint-Germain is playing Barcelona, and this is the biggest matchup in round 1 of the Champions League. And as weird as it is to say, I see PSG beating Barcelona in this two-leg draw right here. I mean, just have so many fantastic players. I know Neymar's hurt right now, but I see them beating this Barcelona team that isn't playing with as much heart, isn't playing with as much defensive intensity. Messi doesn't play defense anymore, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't run back past the midfield line if I didn't have to, and they let him do whatever he wants. But I just don't see this Barcelona team playing together enough, and I think that there are some really fantastic young players on Paris. And Paris lost in the Final Four last year in the Champions League, and I think they're hungry. And I think Mbappe is eager and ready to prove I'm ready for my $200 million transfer to Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think last time we talked, I was actually taking Barcelona in this matchup. Even though they've had all the problems, they're falling apart. They've got all sorts of issues. Messi doesn't even want to be there anymore, at least I think. But I think actually I agree with you. I think Paris is going to be a problem for them. I think Mbappe is going to be a handful for their back line. And I do see PSG taking that one as well.
Yeah, and for the team that you and I both support in Germany, Dortmund, we love the American connections there. My boy Jurgen, one of the reasons that I fell in love with Liverpool too was following Jurgen from Dortmund to Liverpool. But they're playing Sevilla, and Sevilla is one of the top teams in Spain year in, year out. They're a great team, but they just don't have enough to make a run in European football. If this was the Europa League, I might be picking Sevilla to win it, but I don't think they have enough. Dortmund just fired their manager. They're playing a little bit of new football. Jadon Sancho needs to get going, but guys like Gio Reyna, Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, the young guys that are out in full force for Dortmund, I see them winning both games.
And you got to love Dortmund. I mean, you got to love rooting for them. They consistently field one of the youngest teams in the world. And what I love to see is Gio Reyna, what he said recently. He thought about their game against PSG when he was holding his own. I think he ended up getting an assist in that game as well. And he was like, if I can stay on this pitch and compete with PSG, the best in the world, then I can be a dominant force in this team. So I think Gio Reyna is going to be, even though he's so young, he's going to be a great piece in that Dortmund attack. And I think he is going to be a big part. Him and Erling Haaland are going to will Dortmund to the win over Sevilla.
Absolutely, and Holland loves nothing more than scoring in the Champions League.
Yeah,
He
that he does.
sleeps with the 3 balls that he scored his first hat trick in the Champions League, and
Mm-hmm.
so that guy is made for prime time and made for the bright lights, and I can definitely see him willing Dortmund to some good wins. And in our last matchup here in the round of 16, we got Real Madrid and Atalanta. Atalanta has been one of the most fun teams in Europe the past 3-4 seasons with what they've been building there, playing just this wide open, pacey style of football. Just attack, attack, attack. Let's go score 5, 6, 7 goals every game. Been a lot of fun, but you're not beating Real Madrid. I mean, they're one of the top few teams in the world year in and year out. They haven't quite found the same form since Ronaldo left, but it makes sense when you lose a top 2 player in the world that you're not as good. Atalanta's fun. Duvin Sabata and Papu Gomez and all those guys are playing fantastic, and they keep making good signings. But Real Madrid's going to be too much. Benzema is still a world-class striker. He doesn't get enough credit for it. Give me Real Madrid in both these games.
I got to take Real Madrid as well, and I think these picks are going to get a lot more interesting as we go as well. Once we get further into the knockout stages, we're going to see some great matchups. I'm curious what the next draw will be, the quarterfinal draw. I'm excited for that. So these picks will get a lot more interesting as we go here.
Yeah, and as much as I love Liverpool, that's my team. Got my Dortmund jersey back here too. So I got to support my English team and my Bundesliga team. Those are the 2 teams I'm pulling for.
Yeah, and we'll see how the Premier League teams do as well in the Champions League. They never do great, besides Liverpool, the exception. But I'm hoping this will be the year Man City finally gets it done. Pep needs to bring us to the promised land, because we've been banking on European success since 2014, and we just cannot get it done. I mean, we've done everything we need to do in the Premier League, but we'll see if this is the year Pep can get it done with Man City.
It's the last thing Pep needs to do. There's nothing else he needs to do at Man City. He's done everything else.
Yeah.
He's won everything that's not the Champions League.
Absolutely. So that is the goal. That is the ultimate goal.
All right, guys. So our first guest on our Under the Radar segment, we're super excited about Eli Lesser, host of This Week in MLS, one of my favorite follows on Instagram. Super excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to show a little light towards American soccer and the MLS in general. Definitely doesn't get enough love. We got 2 Revs fans here hosting the show. So, lot of love towards the Revs and the MLS. And, just to start, could you talk about your page a little bit?
Yeah. So I started my page back in 2015. My content has evolved over time. I started off just as, I don't know if you guys know All Sports News on Instagram. I used to do those white posts with the picture in the middle and text on the top and bottom. That's how I started off, because I wanted to make that, but just MLS. But then over time, I realized, I got to do something a bit different than this. I started to post rumors. I started to do like a bunch of top 10 lists and stuff. But then I realized, like, I've always wanted to be a sports broadcaster, sports host, and making graphics that I don't really like to make and I'm not really good at making isn't really what I want to do with my time. So over the summer, I started making videos for This Week in MLS full time, and that's what I've been doing for the past 8 or so months, 3-4 videos a week, all filmed and edited by me, and I love every second of it.
That's awesome. So you started the page in 2015 just kind of as this thing you didn't know it was going to take off like this. I mean, now it's at this page with almost 50,000 followers. I mean, when did it really start to blow up for you, and when did you realize that this might be something that you can really make a career out of?
It was definitely around 2018 for sure, when players started to follow me and started to notice me. One in particular that kind of launched me a little bit was Mark Anthony Kay of LAFC.
That's awesome.
It was LAFC's first season. He kind of came out of nowhere. I was kind of sort of coming out of nowhere, and I just kind of built a connection with him. He actually gave me tickets to an LAFC match and to meet him with one of the family passes. And I met him then, and he gave me a big shout out. And that's kind of what really sprung the large, massive following at first. But then I just continued to grow off that, and yeah.
That's so awesome to have a connection with someone like Mark.
Yeah, that's
incredible, especially in their inaugural season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to say I'm an LAFC fan or anything. I'm definitely remaining neutral. I am from LA. I'm neutral between the sides, between every team in the league except for San Jose. I like to crap on San Jose.
Well, being from LA, you have to a little, right?
Yeah. And they outed me a couple months ago on Twitter. When they made the playoffs, they outed me on TikTok. Sorry. I tweeted saying this team just doesn't have it about San Jose a while back. And when they made the playoffs, they posted my tweet on a TikTok and threw it in the trash.
That's
I got
awesome.
the last laugh, though, when they got eliminated on PKs when they didn't make a single PK. I kind of clapped back then, and I was like, yep, called it.
Regardless of the back and forth, I mean, that's got to feel good. You must have known at that point, hey, I've got some pretty good acknowledgement here. Teams
Oh, yeah.
clapping back, and they.
No press is bad press.
Yeah, that was the first time I've been like outed by a team or anything, so I didn't really know how to react. I was like, stay calm, just wait for my moment to strike. And I mean, you can't go into a penalty shootout and miss all three. That is hot garbage. I mean, the Portland versus FC Dallas one, no one missed, and it went to like the whatever round it was. It almost went to the goalkeepers. But to go 0 for 3. Oh my God.
No excuse.
I'm going to enjoy this one for a while.
So building off that a little bit, I mean, how did your love of MLS start? Why did you pick American soccer as your sport? I mean, you're a sophomore in college. So, you've been growing this page for about 5 or 6 years. I mean, why was it the MLS that really piqued your interest?
Well, it started with my grandpa, who was he was a big Chelsea supporter back in the day. Chelsea is not my Premier League team, by the way. Every time I'd go over to his house, we would watch soccer all day. So that was my first exposure to soccer, really. I didn't play it as much as everyone else as a kid. I did AYSO and stuff, but not like any competitive soccer. But when David Beckham came to the Galaxy, wanted to come see him, so I hopped along with him, and that's kind of where that started. But it wasn't really until like 2013-14 when MLS became like my favorite league. And it actually kind of became it because I went to a sports broadcasting camp when I was 14. And at that time, baseball was my big sport. And the Dodgers were my team. Like, they were my everything. And I go to camp the first day, and I'm wearing a Dodger hat and a gray shirt, or a gray hoodie. And I walk in, and every other kid there, this was in LA, was wearing a Dodger hat and a gray hoodie. And I was like, at first I was like, this is kind of cool. Everyone's like me. But then I realized, wait, everyone's like me here. Like, the competitiveness in me was like, wait, how do I separate myself? And throughout that week I was there, I was talking with everyone about all different types of sports. That's kind of what we did during our lunches and stuff. And I realized I was the only one who like had anything to say about soccer at any given moment. And I was like, you know what? I'm a hop on this. And that's why I created This Week in MLS that next year, in 2015, right before I went back to that camp. So I was like, look what I'm doing now. But I've just loved the sport. I love the league itself because I want it to be the biggest sport in America. And I also love things that grow. And I want to be a part of the growth, which is a big factor as to why I wanted to be in the MLS community, because I want to be part of that growth, but also lifted up with that growth. And I feel like that is kind of what has happened with my page, because since 2015, when I started, MLS has grown an insane amount. In 2015, MLS was, I mean, I hate that stigma, but it definitely was heavily considered a retirement league. But I don't really think you could say that anymore. I feel like we're now like a seller league with young players that are just killing the game in Europe, whether they actually play for the MLS sides or not. The academy products that we're producing are better than ever. And that was a big point I brought up in my MLS versus Liga MX video yesterday, because if you look at the success of the MLS exports compared to the Liga MX exports over the past 5 seasons, US has the dub right there. And that was a big reason why I kind of thought MLS is better than Liga MX now, because it's the receipt for me. That's my receipt. I know a lot of people talk about the CONCACAF Champions League and stuff, and MLS's lack of titles, but at the same time, there's more to it. And obviously the tournament's a little whack in the scheduling and stuff, and it kind of favors Liga MX sides anyways. But
Well, I mean, you look at Europe right now, and Chucky Lozano is basically the only U23, 24 Mexican player on any big club, and the U.S. is blowing up with all these academy products. So I'm with you. I think the U.S. is in a pretty fantastic spot compared to Liga MX right now.
I have a fun stat, actually. So in the past 30 days alone, more U23 Americans have played minutes in the top 5 European leagues than Mexicans in the last 5 years.
That's what it's all about
There
right
it
there.
is.
And that is that meteoric, growth that you're talking about. The past 5 years is, when this golden age of American soccer players is happening right now. You look at Reggie Cannon leaving FC Dallas and going to Boa Vista, and Brian Reynolds is right behind him and basically has a deal to Roma set up, so the rumors say right now. But it's incredible.
Oh, yeah, him as well. And then you talk about Julian Araujo on the Galaxy, another right back. It's funny because we talk about England being the country that has all the best right backs. But low-key, the U.S. is kind of right behind them with that.
Dest. Yeah, I mean, you got Dest, Cannon, Araujo, Reynolds.
You could count DeAndre Yedlin still, even though he's kind of trash.
Yeah. It all started with Yedlin. I still got the Yedlin jersey.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, yeah, he's the one that started all at right back. But there's weird reports of Fabiano Fabrizio. Is that his name? The famous
Fabrizio, yep.
Fabrizio. He said that Italian execs are saying that Ryan Reynolds is the next Trent Alexander-Arnold, and that'd be insane.
I mean, not bad to be compared to the best right back in the world. I mean, I'm a Liverpool supporter in the Premier League, so I'm a little bit biased, but I mean, there's no one better than Trent in his position right now. And if that's what top Italian executives are thinking in such a defensive league, I'll take it. I'll take it any day of the week.
No, absolutely. And I don't know, that type of stuff gets me so excited. And the thing is, for the 2022 World Cup, first of all, we got to qualify. And I think we can make a decent run. But 2026 is the year I think the U.S. will win it. And
it's in the U.S.
Yes, it is in the U.S. All the players that are like coming up in Europe right now will be in their absolute primes. They'll be 27, 28, 29 years old. And there will be no better shot for the U.S. Well, hopefully we'll continue to produce these guys. But just looking at what we have now, there will be no better shot for us to win it than in 2026. And we saw what the 1994 World Cup did for American soccer. It created MLS. Imagine what it can do for soccer in America if we have this group of guys at the top of their game in America playing in the World Cup and we potentially winning it. I mean, soccer would have to pass every sport, not every sport, like they'd have to at least be a top 3 sport by then.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And what's so exciting about that too is, I mean, all these prospects that are coming up right now, a lot of them you've never heard of, and that's just going to continue. The amount of 16 and 17 and 18-year-olds that you never heard of. Brian Reynolds started for 2 months, and now look at where he's going to be playing. So there's guys that you've never heard of, 16-year-olds right now, that might be starting on those World Cup teams. So I'm unbelievably excited about the potential there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny about Brian Reynolds because I loosely said after seeing a couple of his matches, like, oh, wow, he could be even better than Reggie Cannon. No way was I thinking he's going to be at Roma next year. And, it excites me. And I'm like, oh, wow, well, yeah, he's a really good player. But I was not expecting that attention so quickly. I will say I do want to take credit for Weston McKennie. I know because back in, 2016 – when he was on FC Dallas's academy team, I watched one academy game and he was a baller. And I'm like, this dude is going to be an absolute baller. Turns out he makes the move to Schalke. It's looking incredible there. Now he's going to be bought by Juventus full time because he's killing it there. I mean, I don't know if you saw, there was a photo of him and Ronaldo, and Ronaldo was just looking at him with the biggest smile. And I wish my girlfriend would look at me the way Ronaldo was. But it was just a very, very dope moment as an American soccer stan to see a player like that basically getting that praise from the best of the best in the game and wanting him to be his teammate, really.
It's incredible that we have a right back playing behind Messi for Barcelona, and we have Weston McKennie locking down the midfield with more energy than all of their midfielders put together, playing behind Ronaldo. It's really incredible what's going on right now. It really is. Yeah,
I consider Weston McKennie to be Jermaine Jones on crack.
Okay, I like it. I mean,
steroids, a little more family friendly, but a little, I'd say steroids, to be kinder. But no, he's everything Jermaine Jones was, but just so much better.
Everything we wanted Jermaine Jones to be.
Everything we wanted him to be. Because I think Jermaine Jones had some great seasons at Schalke, which is obviously where Wes McKennie played, and that's like a nice little comparison. But like just the grit and grind style, just I'm gonna chase after everything. I'm gonna cover so much ground. It's just that same energy I feel, but just so much more. And I think McKennie's just more talented as well.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And I wonder, Eli, if I could get your thoughts on, the prospect of all these young American talents going overseas to play, or if, we need more homegrown talents that stay grounded in the U.S. and play in the MLS, and how that affects the growth of the MLS as well as the national team.
Well, the great thing about all the young prospects going to Europe is the teams are going to be making more and more money off it. And that's what's really great, because that's more money going back into the league. What's so different about soccer compared to other sports, maybe like the NBA or the NFL, in soccer it really is the next man up. Because with soccer, the youth system's always going to be flooding in players. And there's always going to be new guys coming up, as you saw with FC Dallas. I mean, that's a great example. Reggie Cannon, Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds was that next man up, and now he's even better. So I don't think it's a bad idea that we keep selling these prospects abroad, especially because they're giving us more name recognition as they're killing it. I mean, Alphonso Davies, FIFA Pro 11. That kid was from the Vancouver Whitecaps, a team that doesn't get any attention here. They're getting attention in Europe because of Alphonso Davies coming from them. And I do think there's a point where the players I think some of the players maybe got to stay a little longer, but that's also on the teams to sign them while they can. Because FC Dallas didn't make any money off Weston McKennie. He left before they signed him to a professional contract. But I still credit FC Dallas with raising him, because he spent the time in the academy. But if the teams continue to profit, and the profit's just going to get larger and larger with the more and more guys going. And it all started, really the American prospects started with Pulisic in this generation, because ever since Pulisic, everyone's like been searching in America for the next Pulisic. And even then we have the next man up, because Gio Reyna's the new Pulisic. He's got the hype that Pulisic had, but even more so.
Better at 18.
Better at 18, exactly. So that's the thing. There's always going to be that next man up, and the national team's never going to stay the same. Sure, in the NBA, the rosters never stay the same, but like you got your guys that are there. Well, not really anymore, because NBA isn't very loyal.
Thanks to LeBron in 2010. You did all this, LeBron.
Exactly. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a diehard Clippers fan. So
all right.
A little interesting time,
Absolutely.
And we think we're not the little brother, we still are the little brother. But
hey, well, it's going to be another exciting season for the Clippers. Yeah. There's no doubt there.
No, at this point, it's like I'm accepting the fact that the Lakers are better than us. But if we could just make a Western Conference Finals, man, I'll be fine. I don't care if we get cheeked by the Lakers and get swept. But if we can just make Western Conference Finals, all will be worth it for me.
You just have to stay off Twitter if you lose in the conference finals, the Lakers. Like just like 2 weeks.
Well, I was off for a week. I did not go on any social media, really. You did not want. I didn't even leave my dorm room. I was not.
You. Did it hurt seeing Trez swap sides?
No.
I mean,
so
really.
First of all, yes, it did, in a way where I'm like, B word. But at the same time, I didn't want the Clippers to re-sign him for the money that he wanted originally, because I don't think he's worth $15 million a season. I know he got a bargain deal with the Lakers, but that's because of Clutch Sports and Rich Paul controls the NBA. But at the same time, I love the idea of having Serge Ibaka more than Montrezl.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way our offense is going to be is 5 guys are going to be spacing the floor, and everyone's just going to be able to pop up, and we're just going to be very hard to defend, and that's going to be great.
Absolutely. Ibaka's a better fit, in my opinion. So getting back to soccer a little bit.
No problem. All good. We like to hear that too.
The problem is I would sit here and talk NBA for the next 2 hours if I could. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But we talked a little bit about Liga MX, and there's still just the constant rumors about an MLS Liga MX merger, and those came back again in the past couple of weeks. Do you see any validity in that? Do you think it could ever happen? I mean, I think it's just way too many teams, way too large of an area, but that's just me. What are your thoughts on that?
I hate it, first of all. A lot of people really like it because, like, oh, the competitiveness will be better. But at the same time, I think the trajectory of both leagues are in very different places. And I feel like that would be, and I hate to sound like cocky or anything, but Liga MX trying to like stay relevant or like cling on to the success of what MLS is doing and the growth of MLS. I think there should be more tournaments with the Mexican MLS, and also we need to get South American teams in tournaments, because I think the CONCACAF Champions League would be better if they expanded it to CONMEBOL and it was just the American Champions League, North and South America. I think it'd be so much better if you had like a quarterfinal with like the Sounders, Tigres, Boca Juniors.
So much fun. River Plate, get them all in there.
River Plate, yeah. That would be so much cooler to me, and I think that would make the Champions League more interesting to watch, but I do understand like travel would be a pain in the butt. But I don't like the idea of the combined league. They'd have to make like 3 or 4 divisions out of the teams that they have, because they'd also probably bring in the Liga MX2 or whatever the relegation league is, so those teams would be involved in it. Yes, it sounds great on paper to have like the top 8 teams from both leagues in the same league. But at the same time, the way the leagues are ran are just so different. I mean, the MLS has all the cap rules, the allocation money stuff, and Liga doesn't really have that. So it'd be kind of unfair there. They'd have to abolish everything. They just have to change the system way too much. And I think the way MLS is going right now, they really don't want that change. I think Liga MX would want that change more than we would.
Yeah, and the logistics would be a nightmare. You're right there.
Imagine traveling from like South Mexico to Montreal.
Yeah, you got a 3-day flight, a couple layovers, you know.
Yeah, and they'd have to find something to do with like 60 teams.
Oh yeah.
Be a mess.
There's already too many teams in MLS as it is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just keep adding them. Here comes Austin.
So Eli, with you being from Syracuse, you being from LA anyways, just getting back to more personal touch, how was your experience at Syracuse? You know, that's across the country. It's a completely different environment. So what has Syracuse done for you? What's that experience been like, especially in terms of developing this page and like the communications program there?
Yeah. Well, the communication program is, I love it. Newhouse is a great school. It's the reason why I traveled across country to go to school. That was the legit reason. I got in there and I was like, screw it, let's go. Let's move on out. And I've had a great experience there. I've been involved in some stuff, but at the same time, I've been focusing more on my independent brand. Just because that's what kind of separates me from a lot of the students at Newhouse. But the skills that I'm learning at school, I'm applying to the videos. I mean, last spring I took a class, and in that class we learned how to use Premiere. And that's what I use now to edit all my videos. I mean, I started in the quarantine all these videos after I had finished that class. So without that class, I probably wouldn't be doing these videos yet or comfortable making the videos. Obviously, you could always learn online and stuff, but that was a very convenient way. But all the classes and the peers and just like creating some sort of network. A while back, I made merch, and I did that with like graphic design majors at Syracuse. It's always about like having a bunch of friends, but using the friends that you have and throwing all of your skills together and creating something with them. And I think that's what's been the best part of my Syracuse experience.
Awesome. And just a couple more MLS questions before we let you go. Don't want to have you on here too long. I know you got things to do, but the MLS Championship, you know, about a week and a half ago now, with Seattle and Columbus. Would you mind talking about that a little bit? I mean, Columbus goes in and dominates the game, and they don't even have 2 of their starters. You know, it was a dominant performance.
Yeah. So first of all, I will go on the record for saying that I thought no one would ever beat Seattle because I was scared of them. I was very sad about it because I don't really like Seattle very much because their fans could be a little toxic sometimes. Also, I have a friend who hosts a podcast, Next Gen Podcast. He's a huge Sounder fan, and he's so annoying about it. But like everyone all our like friend group in the MLS community really wanted them to lose just so he'd shut up. The Columbus Crew, first of all, they came out fighting early. Yes, they didn't have Darlington Nagbe, but Aiden Morris, a youngster, talk about next man up mentality. He comes in and he looks like he was Darlington Nagbe in the sense of having that confidence to step up. A lot of young players, when they come to MLS, they're very passive at first. The second they receive the ball, immediately looking to get rid of it. But Aiden Morris was taking space in front of him, really checking out his options. He was really aggressive to mark some people or the opponents on the ball. So I was very proud of like how Aiden Morris looked. And then it's the Lucas Elarayan show. I mean, in order to succeed in MLS, you have to have a DP10, a strong DP10, and Lucas Elarayan, newcomer of the year, shows up in that match. I mean, he was going to be the reason why they would win the MLS Cup, in my opinion, heading into it, and he proved me right. So that's great. I mean, I got pretty much all my other predictions wrong, so that's another thing.
So speaking of DP10s and having to have one to be successful in this league, my New England Revolution get Carles Hill back at the end of the season, and I mean it is just an entirely different team, right? So I was so amped for them. I was hoping for a better run, but I feel a little bit better knowing that we lost to the champions. I take a little bit of relief there.
And you guys were the 8th seed anyways. No one was expecting y'all to make it far, but you guys beat the Supporter Shield champs pretty handedly. I mean, yeah. Philadelphia wasn't in that match the entire time. And shout out to my boy Tejan Buchanan, who I love. But when Heel and Bo are on top of their game, there are very few teams in MLS that can beat the New England Revolution. And Heel is that DP number 10. And you looked at the final 4 teams in the bracket. On the West, you have Emmanuel Reynoso for Minnesota, Nico Ladero for the Sounders. Then you got Heel and Zelarayan on the East. Great DP10s on all the sides. They pretty much help carry their teams. Minnesota would not have gone that far without Emmanuel Reynoso. I mean, you could credit Jordan Morris, Raul Ruidiaz, but Nico Ladero is that man in the middle. And then same thing goes for Heel and Zelarayan.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit more on my Revs, because, I want to get your perspective. Where do you place Henry Kessler as a defender in this league? Because, I mean, he was just absolutely phenomenal from start to finish this year. From the bubble in Orlando to the end of the year, I was remarkably impressed with him. He's a Bruce Arena guy from Virginia. He was phenomenal. I thought he was great all year.
So, yes, you bring up my favorite point to talk about in MLS. The MLS Super Draft, because I will go down to my grave fighting for the MLS Super Draft to stay and to exist, because I love the MLS Super Draft. I think NCAA is still a great path to the pro. Whether or not the youth academies are continuing to develop and getting better and better, NCAA should always be an option, because so many players slip through the cracks or want to get their education. Henry Kessler is one of those guys that was just an absolute tank in college. Going to Syracuse, I got to see them play Virginia, which was great. I got to see Daryl Dike play as well. And what annoys me is how they got rid of the Rookie of the Year award. Mm-hmm. I felt like the league just wanted to give something to Diego Rossi, so they did that. And obviously, Daryl Dike probably would have won it because he scored the goals and stuff. But like Henry Kessler was the most consistent out of the rookies, and he will be a top 10 center back at least next season. I know it's really early still because he only played one season, but like if he keeps up his form right now, he's a top 10, and I think he will inch his way into the USMNT picture, because I don't think that the USMNT picture moving forward will just be European based. I mean, sure, that group that was called up in November was really fun to watch, and that was a great roster, but there's always going to be those MLS mainstays that will make the roster. And I do think Henry Kessler will be an MLSer for life guy. He does kind of seem that way for me, which honestly would be great for the Revs, because I don't really see them, as long as Bruce Arena's there, they're not getting rid of Henry Kessler. But he's going to be one of those MLS mainstays that they're going to bring in. You think about a few years ago, obviously there were way more MLS mainstays then, but like a Matt Diesler being called up to the men's national team. And I look at Henry Kessler as one of those guys. I think he could become like a new Chad Marshall for the league, which is a big thing. But Chad Marshall was huge. Henrik Kessler's huge. I think Kessler will fill out a bit more. He's still kind of skinny for his height, but he already has such great knowledge of the game and a great soccer IQ. And just that fact alone is why you should not sleep on the NCAA, because he came straight out of it. That soccer knowledge comes from being in that Virginia program.
One of my favorite tweets I've ever seen about the MLS is someone said, you can sign a $30 million striker from Europe and he won't score for 5 straight games, but you'll have a 23-year-old rookie from Minnesota score a game-winning header in the 95th minute. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean Minnesota, the college, not the team. You know, I just picked a random one, but it really is an amazing league in that sense.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, we saw the whole striker thing with Chicharito this season. But
oh, yeah.
Don't get me started on that.
All right, well, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. You want to plug anything? You want to, just tell the people to go follow you, whatever it is. Floor is yours if you want it.
Yeah, follow This Week in MLS on Instagram. Follow at Eli Lesser FC on Twitter. And then also subscribe to the 110 Football YouTube channel. That's the show I'm on. So definitely check that out. I have some things planned for the future, but I can't really shout those out yet. But stay tuned. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, Eli. It was great.
So something we're going to be doing every episode is a little segment called What We've Learned. And we just want to, give a quick take about something that we've learned and picked up over the past few weeks in the sports world. And mine, Pat, and I've been harping on this for a while, is just the NFL does not care about their players. And we've known this. We know that this is true. But through the whole COVID experience, it's really shining through more than ever. Moving games for some teams, not moving games for other teams, letting the Broncos go out without any of their 4 quarterbacks and making a practice squad wide receiver play, sending the Patriots to Kansas City the day of their quarterback getting positive tests, moving the Ravens and Steelers games around. I mean, the NFL doesn't care about their players, and I just want them to stop pretending to. That's all I want. Roger Goodell. People aren't mad at you for not caring about their players. They're mad at you for so many other things. But please just be honest on this one, man. You get paid, what, $44 million a year? I mean, just stop lying, man. It's okay.